This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
Power Athlete Nation, what is happening? Episode 45. I can't wait. We got a great show for you today. As always, we got Luke and Callie. John's joining us, and Tex is on the horn as well. How's everybody doing?
What is up?
Hey!
What's going on?
What is going on?
We already used that
There
one.
it is.
Oh, sorry, I'm beating a dead horse. Hello, this is John Welborn. I'm here for you.
Unique New York.
Unique New York.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Nice and moist.
Oh my god.
Nice
we're
and
live.
moist. There it is.
So we've been trying to come up with some taglines for Callie to get the group motivated, and the one that I came up with was, hey guys, all right, I want to see how you guys get nice and moist.
No,
Time to start exercising.
I am absolutely not using that term.
Unique New York.
I don't need slogans to get the group motivated. I just give them a death stare and they get
And then go
scared.
bitch mode.
Yeah, go full
You know, I
bitch.
actually work with
Flash
Johnny
the
a
gun.
shirt. I have a shirt that actually has an on and off, and underneath it says bitch mode.
Really?
Yeah, and on the back it's just going to say Callie. Coach Callie.
I'm just gonna tell them like,
Bring the noise.
yeah, bring the noise. I pretend to make an important phone call where I just say things like buy, sell, buy, and then I come back and everybody's ready to go.
Yeah, I like it.
So how did, well, let's back up. A lot of people are getting anxious with the premium content. They're seeing the testing. They feel like they're starting to panic. Where are we at with that, Luke? What do you got? What do you got with the premium stuff?
Right now we're ironing out some kinks. The software is going to work perfectly. We got some feedback from the testing group on a couple enhancements. One thing we got to do is figure out a way to make the site more mobile friendly on launch. Now, it is in the pipeline to make, just like we did with CrossFit Football, to upgrade Power Athlete and make it more responsive for mobile devices, but that's just not a day one project. So that is in the pipeline. But right now, we got our social network put up. Everybody can set up their own custom profiles. Everybody can set up their own coaches network, athletes network. They can join specific groups within our network that are pertinent to them. Right now, we just have a test group and like a big global Power Athlete Nation. But I foresee you're going to have groups like the Honey Badgers or the Power Athlete Ladies and stuff like that. We're going to have, it'll allow just people to kind of network and have topical conversation within these groups that's pertinent to their training and their lifestyle. And then the forums are getting ironed out. There are some functionality things that we had to figure out how to make it more compatible with our layout. So it's the boring stuff like that. So when you guys get a go live and people start signing up, they're going to be right in, seamlessly. We are finalizing the first, I guess, training block of our programming. We're going to be up. That's going to be launched up there. John's going to be writing his Field Strong program, which is something that we've never really published. It's only been for some private clients, but we found a way to globalize it, I guess, and normalize it so people can get some additional programming. And I don't know, John, you want to talk about Field Strong at all?
Yeah. The Field Strong idea happened, a couple of years ago when we started kind of naming our programs. And the original program that we wrote for the CrossFit Games is called the Matrix, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is Freddie Camacho still uses it in his strength stuff, and he just actually texted me not too long ago about actually using it for his gym and wanted to kind of put it out there a little bit. But where this started was we started writing more programming specific for different athletes that were under different deals, following our what are we training for model. The CrossFit Football has always been a general strength training template based on the Power Athlete model that we designed and translate for the CrossFit community. And it's paid great dividends. But if you look at the program, it's pretty basic. There's a lot of holes within it. And when you come to the seminar, we fill in a lot of the holes. There's the warm-ups, the plyos, the dynamic movement, a lot of the isometric, and a lot of the assessment tools that we use start making the program look a lot more like it's making sense, because as it fits, it's just a shell, and people start kind of plugging and playing. And as we have been kind of reading a lot of the questions and getting a lot of feedback from people always wanted, how do I take what I learned at the seminar? Is there a way that, you could kind of mix it up and really, give us a firsthand understanding of, the Power Athlete program, or what we've commonly referred to as our Field Strong program. And I started writing it and started putting it together, and there's a narrative. It's all the assistance work, and it's all the extra, all the little things that we do every day in our training and our private clients, and people have really got to see the full breadth of the program. So when we started trying to really put together this Power Athlete Academy, the videos, and we wanted to do a forum, and the harder thing with forums is they're pretty difficult to kind of manage. Like, there is a certain level of moderation, and the easiest thing that I tasked Luke with is how do we make it where it's not full of trolls. And we had a forum for a short period, but we got bombarded by people that were just wanting to post links to sex sites, and it just became impossible for me to manage. So I killed it fairly quickly. So we were like, all right, well, let's just make it a couple bucks a month, and that way it guarantees that it's just not some weirdo spammer. So we kind of tasked that, and we started kind of adding different layers. And I think for the premium content, when I started kind of shipping over Luke programming for himself and other people, when he really looked at it, he said, man, this would be really pretty awesome for the community and for people. And I think it'd be definitely something for people that wanted to really dive in deep and really, suck the marrow out of the CrossFit Football Power Athlete, Field Strong program. And, that's what you'll see. And then once this kind of gets rolling, we'll start, putting out our Big Monkey program, which will be for those power athletes that are competing in functional fitness competitions. So we've been writing, I've worked with a dozen or so athletes that are, games athletes, and what does their programming look like? How do you take that and, transition from this kind of, I want to be strong, big, fast, explosive athlete, and actually start kind of taking it in a different direction with the idea of using it in some form of competition, some form of functional fitness. So there'll be two separate programs. Probably the Field Strong will launch day one, and then the Big Monkey will come a little bit later. And, the Big Monkey is really, that's what my buddy Rick has called me for years. He's always called me a Big Monkey, so it was kind of an easy deal, and also fits with the analogy we gave on training, so in my own training style. So there's a lot of stuff that we do, there's a lot of stuff that I do, and this is just a little bit more, and just taking it another avenue. Nothing will change in CrossFit Football. CrossFit Football will still be programmed. You'll still be able to go to the site. You'll still be able to get everything that you get every day. But, for the people that want more, where just a static site that posts workouts, they want to really dive into this thing. They want to really see what the full effect. And it's been really exciting for me, because in a way, writing the CrossFit Football program has been extremely enriching, but it's also been somewhat, I don't know, leaving me a little unfulfilled, in that there's so much more I want to write. There's so much more I want to put out there. Like, I want to guide people a little bit more. I want to give them so much more information. And we didn't know how to necessarily deliver all that information and all that content in a way that's both meaningful, good, and more importantly, allows us to collect all the data points and pull everybody in. I mean, just randomly putting stuff out there and, kind of throwing it against the wall to see what sticks is great. But at the end of the day, you want to build a community. You want to bring people in. You want to get feedback. You want to kind of watch these things evolve. And the only way we know how to effectively do it is by creating this kind of paid back end, which is, we think is pretty nominal compared to what, a lot of our private clients are paying for this training. Is it's a smoking deal. I mean, we've given away a ton of free programming, and for a couple bucks you get to see a lot of the back end notes and actually get involved in the community and get your questions answered and really dive into this thing and start using the program as it was intended.
Yeah, when just kind of piggyback on top of that, when John has us following these programs, we have something that even a lot of his clients and our clients don't have, which is real-time accessibility to understand what the application of the movement or the workout or the cluster or the superset or whatever it is, to understand how it should be applied relative to the rest of the training day, which seems seems kind of silly, and you can make those assumptions as jump on it. But what we've learned and what other people are becoming as they become a little more intelligent is you become this, what we call a performance whore, where you're looking for the most optimal stimulus to drive the most accelerated adaptation. That's what Google's done. We don't want to wait 6 months if we can get it done in 3. Well, you can take the program and apply it to 2 different people, and it's about application and daily application guidelines, and that's what we're also including in this is, when I told John, I'm like, yeah, but I get to talk to you every day about this. And he's like, well, I'm going to add some narratives. I'm going to let people know exactly how I want to do it. And that's what the differentiating factor is between the programming you're going to find on Power Athlete HQ and the other stuff you find out there, including on CrossFit Football. We take the guesswork out of it. We know how to drive adaptation the quickest and most efficiently, and we're going to give you that insight through the daily programming and even more so in the private forums. So that's the structure, and that's what it looks like in terms of the programming and community aspect of it. But what else, Denny? You've had a chance to poke around.
You know what? There's a lot out there. Right away I started thinking, like, man, you could almost the amount of information that you're gonna get from this site, you could almost have like a Power Athlete seminar, right?
Yeah, theoretically.
In theory, yeah, because if it's like building this huge database, and like I said, the organization's there. Once you see it, you should be able to get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, it's going to be
all the programs in Big Monkey, in Field Strong, and like in a year from now, where are you guys going to be? You're going to have all this data. It's like, what's the next step? How do you apply that, or is it just going to be in like the athletic results, I guess?
Well, we've used these programs in in high schools. We've worked with countless amount of football players, hockey players, bobsledders. Anybody that's used this program. And what we're really seeing too, especially in the CrossFit world, when you see a lot of these competitions, you're seeing these guys kind of really morph from this idea of forging kind of general elite fitness to guys that are just basically big power athletes with a shitload of capacity that are able to go out and suffer and win these things. And that's really the market that we've really tapped into, and this is the market we know. This is who we are. And I think what we're really trying to do is go out there and almost drive a stake in the ground and kind of pull a group of people in and say, hey, you know what, these are our people, and more importantly, this is the style of training we're doing, this is what we're spearheading. And, I don't necessarily know if there's some evil plot where in 1 year we will be doing this. It's kind of like I was telling Luke, periodically to know where you're going, you have to look backwards and you have to look at your history. And I always am constantly trying to remind Luke and Callie especially a little bit about where we came from, where all this thing started, how all this started. And we talked a little bit today about how Power Athletes started. And really, when I launched the CrossFit Football stuff, the tagline Forging Powerful Athletes came out of a conversation with another one of my friends, and we were talking a little bit about training and needed a tagline, and it was kind of a play off the Forging Elite Fitness, Forging Powerful Athletes. And I remember having a conversation with Greg Glassman about it, and he, kind of talked about the difference between being elite and being powerful, and how these are kind of, not mutually exclusive, that they both kind of play in the same place. And as out of that conversation and that meeting, really that's where the Power Athlete program was forged and was really created. And then from there on, I realized that's what we were building, that it wasn't just about powerful athletes, it was actually a market of power athletes. And from that day forward, we kind of drove that stake in the ground, went out, trademarked it, started Power Athlete, and really have built this global brand. And even though people were using that term to describe it, we really kind of redefined it, redescribed it, put a face to it. And now when people talk about, hey, power athlete building power athletes. I mean, it really goes back to us, and I think we've done a great job with that. But I'm a huge believer, man, that if you don't know where you came from and you don't know your roots, it's almost impossible to know where you're going. And I think much like CrossFit Football, the first day we launched and we had 17,000 hits in 150 plus countries, and people started doing this program, and we started getting all these data points. I think that's really been the saving grace and really the power of the program is the results. And as people sitting here in Costa Mesa, Newport Beach in California, how do we stay connected with people doing our program? As it sits now, we use social media. It's Facebook, it's our website, it's Twitter, it's pictures. It's really this information flow that goes back and forth. And when Luke and I really started talking, and almost 2 years ago, when we looked at creating this Power Athlete HQ, this Power Athlete Academy, and we actually worked with somebody to work on creating it, and we just couldn't get the vision right. And it's taken us 2 years of creating my vision, which was this idea of this kind of community back end, this kind of social media forum information where you could get real-time training, you could get real-time information, you could take us into the gym in your iPhone, and there's videos, there's training, there's everything. And it's not just a shell program, that's actually the meat and the bones, the potatoes, the dessert, everything, like the full meal that you can go in and really digest it. And at that point, we really get to see the true, I guess you could say, effect of the program. We really get to see what this program does in comparison when you start taking people and you start taking them from one place into this realm of power athlete, and people start identifying with it. I mean, every day I click on Twitter, there's somebody that's using our logo in terms of their icon. There's people that are, hashtag power athlete. What are you training for? And, I mean, these are our trademarks. This is how people identify us, and we identify ourselves. So I think what it is just an evolution. We teach.
It's a revolution, right?
Revolution, evolution. I think we teach the CrossFit Football program. We go out and we teach that seminar for CrossFit, and it's been great about getting people in, showing people that there's you can specialize without losing your identity, and kind of that this idea of specialization isn't necessarily a bad thing. That there's very specific athletes that train for very specific things that are some of the best people we just saw in the Olympics. I mean, you're talking about people that have dedicated their life to one task, to be a perfectionist at it. And I'm all for it. I love it. I love the idea of people going out there and sinking their teeth in and being like, I'm going to be the best in the world at this one thing. And we've done, I think, very well with the program. I mean, there's a lot of options out there, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to select. And it's just not merely selecting a program or saying, hey, you know what, it's identifying with something. My goals are in line with these goals. And more importantly, which is what this thing is really about, is about creating more community. The power of all of this stuff, whether it be CrossFit Football, Power Athlete, CrossFit, it doesn't matter what it is creating community and identifying. And I mean, that's why we post daily pictures of our people from all over the world, because these are people that are doing this training that are identifying themselves as power athletes. I do the CrossFit Football program, but John, how do I get into it more? Do I contact you for private training? Yeah, there's tons of people that do it, and we have a large group of them. But how do we offer this to the masses? How do we make it a global revolution? How do we really push it out there and make it this global response? And I tasked Luke with it, and I think we've really knocked it out the park, at least the first iteration today. Now, obviously, this thing will evolve. I mean, we joke that, when iPhone 1 came out, you couldn't attach a picture, and now we couldn't imagine using a cell phone without being able to attach a picture. So
or video chat,
or all these levels of connectivity. But think about if they launched that day one, people would have just zapped themselves and probably just swallowed their tongues. But really, the beginning part becomes, let's figure out how the information flow. And then over time, water finds its level. It'll definitely find its way down the hill, and this thing will evolve into exactly what we need it to be. If you take a look at the CrossFit Football site, we rolled with that site for almost 4 years because the information and the technology did not exist when I started the site in 2009 that allowed me to do what I wanted to do. And even in 2010, 2011, and even in 2012, when Luke came on board and we started really talking about CrossFit Football redesign, everything we wanted really wasn't available to us, and then all of a sudden we were able to put some stuff together, and there was some technology and this kind of reactive site and the ability to really have a mobile friendly, and really seeing this transition from somebody sitting at a computer and moving to a mobile friendly device. That stuff is really 2014, and I think as it sits, and I'm not tooting our own horn, but I think the CrossFit Football site is probably the best CrossFit site on the internet right now in terms of connectivity, managing the experience, getting the information, being seamless between the mobile and the desktop. And I think it's pretty amazing. And I'm sure that after we get this thing rolling, we'll see more connectivity, and we'll be able to kind of morph the Power Athlete into more of that style. But we got to get the ball rolling. We got to get the water rolling downhill.
Yeah,
we got to start moving.
And just in respect to that, all we're doing on CrossFit Football is posting a workout, and we have a seminar schedule. You know what I mean? And the amount of effort it took our team to get that site put together was substantial. Now, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of hard work and not a lot of smart work, but that I could not imagine putting or sculpting a website to do everything that we're going to do within Power Athlete. So we're taking a very general approach in terms of functionality to start, and then, like John said, as water finds its level, we're going to find which tools we need, what we need to build out. But right now, it's just building that proof of concept, getting the masses on there, and then also, allowing for that white space to really come into focus based off of user feedback. And that's one thing I think, we're not trying to predict what everyone's going to want. We're trying to throw out everything we have and see, what sticks.
We had so much user feedback for CrossFit Football because it had so many people doing the program, that when we sat back and we really put a bucket list together of like, hey, these are our hot buttons, this is what we need, this is how it fits, it was very, very simple to sit up and kind of whiteboard it and kind of brainstorm the direction the site needed to go. And I remember seeing the original designs, and just seeing them on static pages was cool, but it really lacked luster. And then all of a sudden, when you saw the site built, you saw it loaded with content, and you started kind of, shrinking and minimizing and looking at it on, an iPhone, on a Note, on an iPad, and you started kind of moving back before all these different mediums. All of a sudden, the magic of the site really became apparent. And, there's always been constraints. Like, if you notice, the pictures are always this kind of 6x3 kind of deal, just because it allows us to kind of fit. So, I mean, we had to kind of adjust our parameters, and it takes a little bit of time to kind of aesthetically get everything done. And there's some other things we would change that we didn't realize to get into it. But I think that the football site looks fucking amazing. I mean, I'm super proud of it. I get constant feedback from people that's like, dude, this is hands down the best thing we've seen in the CrossFit world. I mean, in terms of a website, in terms of connectivity. And I think with that step and moving towards the Power Athlete, really it's how we identify ourselves. It's our brand. It's who we are. It's the program. It's everything. And I'm super excited about it. I mean, this has been my vision, and Luke and Callie and Tex and everybody we have involved is really help bring this thing into focus. I mean, in a way, it was like we had this kind of macro, and now it's kind of coming into the micro. And I'm super excited to see this thing up. I mean, I'm super excited just to participate and to be able to actually work with people. I mean, as it sits, it's why we started Talk to Me Johnny, was just because I was flooded with so many questions that I didn't know a good medium to be able to put that information out. And so we started Talk to Me Johnny. And what I'm looking at now is an opportunity for Talk to Me Johnny to be real time, because as it sits, my ability to post information has really gone down the tubes. And I need a way to be able to keep pumping it out. I mean, there was if you guys have been on the site in terms of the testing, I mean, we had a guy asking about some nutrition stuff, and it was easy to actually get into a dialogue. Hey, try this, try this, try this. Well, hey, you said this. Well, you know what? Everything's not set in stone. Try this, and hopefully we make some changes and we start seeing things in real time. And I think to effectively work with somebody, you have to have some form of daily content. You got to have something like just giving somebody a 6-week program saying, hey, come back to me in 6 weeks, follow this diet for 6 weeks. Even though we joke that we're all the same decaying matter, that we're not unique snowflakes, in a way, everybody, whether it's environmental or, no matter what it is, has a certain set of stressors and a certain set of, external factors that are going to dictate, like if I'm able to sleep more, and as you start kind of using performance as the looking glass, everything kind of becomes clear. And when I look back in my own training and I look back on my own training notes and what I've done, there were certain truths that I found that allowed me to reach a certain level that I'm trying to put out there. And the only way I know how to do it is either to talk to me, Johnny, or the football site. And now this has just really allowed me a vehicle to really able to work with more people, get more reach, give more information, really allow people to know exactly what we want done each day so that they can see the full effects of the program.
Yeah, and although there's stuff that needs to be ironed out, I mean, don't get us wrong. I mean, right now the interaction is priceless. It's amazing. It's its own community, and like we were talking about earlier, there might be a few little glitches that we have to handle, but in terms of the connectivity and the ability to interact with fellow power athletes and interact with us on different levels of membership, it exists, and it's amazing. It's just it's the wave of the future. So I mean, we're all pretty stoked about how it is even now. So it's only going to improve from here on out.
Nice. Well, I know I appreciate all the efforts that you guys have been doing. And John, I'm glad you put the CrossFit football program out there in 2009. I mean, it changed my life. When, I think you were really the first one who added a strength template to the CrossFit program. I remember in like 2007, 2008, maybe Jeff Martin had like his strength bias version, but it was, everybody just seemed to be doing like the .com stuff, GPP, and I kind of dabbled in that, and it was cool, and but that kind of general programming isn't exactly what I wanted to still deadlift heavy, and I needed to deadlift more than like once a month. I needed more of some kind of structure, and you put that out there, and I think I know I was hooked right away, and obviously thousands of other people were as well. And like you said, I mean, to see how now the term power athletes out there, people are like tattooing that on their skin. I mean, that says a lot for a training philosophy, and
it says a lot about
exciting
that
to see what the future's to bring. I know I'm excited.
Well, so when, before CrossFit football, I mean, really people hadn't, in terms of the general masses, really been using a structured strength template and using it with a smart conditioning program. People have been looking at kind of strength as just another element of fitness, and they've been working on it kind of randomly. And the one thing that we know, and we know from physiology and our own training, is that strength is anything but random. That strength is an adaptation of stress, and that stress has to be either linear or a nice blend of volume and hypertrophy, that there's a very real way to build it. When you're talking about forging elite fitness and being ready for anything, there's the constantly varied model works great, especially in terms of hormones and avoiding cortisol and constantly driving adaptation. But in terms of strength, strength is anything but. So when I went to the CrossFit Level 1 and I sat there and I listened to the programming section, coming from my collegiate strength conditioning program, playing in the NFL, having trained with people like Rafael Ruiz and Mark Verstegen, Angel Spasoff, and just a lot of these different Tom Shaw and Todd Rice, and I mean I can go name all these different people we work with. Everything was about progression. It was about day one. This isn't where we start. That we're going to go. You're going to test. You're going to retest. You're going to train, and then you're going to test some more, and you're going to figure out what's broken. And we're going to fix it. And I just took that same kind of mode, and I just translated it for the CrossFit community. Funny part is they actually launched the strength-biased journal article one day, actually the day before CrossFit football launched. So I know Jeff had written the article several months or years before, and they just launched it the day before CrossFit football. So people have used his program, and I still run into people that that was their first real experience with strength training, was doing a strength biased program. And they always ask where CrossFit football differs, and I'm like, well, we're not strength biased. We are a strength conditioning program. We're working on creating strong, stable athletes that are able to move in space. And at the seminar we talk at great length about how do you define an athlete. What characteristics can you name that would classify somebody as an athlete in your book? You can turn on and we can use our natural coach's eye. And I always joke that, there's an app called Coach's Eye, but everybody has a coach's eye. We can see somebody do something and know that they're athletic. And if you notice, it's always somebody moving in space. And it's actually, we've gone through and went back and defined it, that it's the seamless transition of moving between different planes of motion effortlessly and easily that allows us to believe that somebody is athletic. And we believe that actually by training those different planes of motion, those different movement patterns, and being able to master them and then seamlessly tie them together is really our definition and what we believe is athletic. And, you start watching some of the best athletes in the world, and they just have the combine on, which is a great show of athleticism. The ability to separate the upper body from the lower body and to be able to move the body independent, move limbs and body in space is really the hallmark for this stuff. So we needed to create a training program that wasn't based on forging elite fitness. We were looking at creating a training program that was about how to make somebody stronger, more explosive, and actually increase athleticism. So it was just we saw kind of a different, it's like two people looking at the same problem and seeing kind of two different solutions. At the end of the day, how we both got there, it doesn't really matter, but everybody's kind of working for this deal. And when I went to the CrossFit Level 1, I saw a group of very, very hungry people, and people to this day still ask me, why do you work with the CrossFit community? And I have just had somebody ask me that question the other day at a seminar, and my first question is, show me a group of people that are willing to work and, who are willing to go out there and kill themselves and bust their ass and train. We go to the seminars, and the one thing I never have to coach is effort. I never have to say, get in somebody's ass and say, I need you to go harder, I need you to go harder. If anything, people go too hard and they don't take enough attention to detail because they come from this mentality, they come from this place that's like hard work is expected. When we talk about intensity, we're not talking about hard work because hard work's a given. We're talking about percentage of 1RM, we're talking about, your ability to, move an external force against a certain, your force against theirs. And, it's just a very, very unique, great group of people. And even in 2009, when this thing was relatively unknown, I sat at the seminar, I looked around, and I thought, man, these are a bunch of people that I have no problem training with. This is a bunch of people that I have no problem working with. And then when they approached me about starting the CrossFit Football, my first thing was like, fuck yeah, why wouldn't I? I mean, like, these people are ready to chew through glass, kick down walls to get better. I can work in this community. If I got to go out and motivate you and talk you into something, I'm not the right person for you. So, but if you have the effort and the motivation and have put the work in, I can make you better. I have hands down, no doubt in my mind that I can make you a better mover, I can make you a better squatter, I can make you a better lifter, I can give you more information to train more efficiently, I can talk to you about sleep and recovery, and I can maximize who you are. Hands down. I think that we offer some of the best stuff in the industry, and I believe that we're one of the best. And I wouldn't be saying that if I didn't believe it. And, this is just another avenue to be able to provide this information and really work with the people we want to work with. And I'm not a talker. Sorry about that if I'm a little long-winded.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned Rafael Ruiz and Tex, you're down there doing an internship. Let's just switch gears. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how your life's going down there in Tampa.
Good. It's going great. I'm missing all the snowstorms in D.C., so I'm extremely fortunate. And just finished up my first month, and it was cool because I got to go to the CERT with John. So I got to recap some of the stuff I'm learning and see his views upon it, talk about his training way back in the day. So it's been a great ride so far. So I got 2 more months left here, and just every day is an experience.
I can see just, the stuff on Facebook, like you're doing morning rucks, and it looks like every weekend they got like what does he call it, the surf and turf, like a swim program.
Yeah, so Raph, sorry.
Or yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, what's it like participating in those events?
So he's taken on a couple of selection guys So he's training them and in his normal classes that we got going on, but then a lot more extra. So during our off days on Tuesday, Thursday morning, we're participating in rucks. So we go to University of Tampa's parking garage, just load up 60-pound packs, and then we go up and down. We run stairs and do kind of some interesting ruck training with those guys. And it's kind of cool learning the military perspective because they just think more. And Raf's taking these two guys and he's trying to educate them that it's about not necessarily as much as you can do, but it's how efficiently and how fast you can do something. So he had these guys just running 5 miles over and over and over again, and he's kind of changed their perspective to do that 5-mile ruck as fast as they possibly can. So each week we're going up in intensity, and I mean, I'm having a good time, but it's a challenge.
So before Tex even went out there, he used to tell me he doesn't believe in GPP or even GSP. He's just an SPP guy. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, all I need to do is play some lacrosse. Now I'm a happy man. So his version of Metconning was like some sit-ups, some torture twists, and then stretching.
And lifting.
Luke, did you go down there and do like an internship too?
No, I didn't. We went down for a long weekend when I first came on, Ben and I, and he took us on the surf and turf, and I think he sent us home because he thought I was going to die. He like swam next to me the whole time. He had, but my plan is to head out there for a week with Tex and just fast track a lot of the stuff that Tex has experienced. I've been in touch with Rob back and forth as we went through, or as I became more familiar with seminar and seminar content and had questions, and he pointed me in the directions to find the information I needed, but I'm not 90 days of exposure like Tex is getting.
I know, that sounds cool, man. What are you hoping to get out of this, Tex? I mean, is there something specific, or is it just you're going to take it all in and then, kind of ponder over it for time and figure out how you're going to implement it?
Well, Tex just actually told me over text he was hoping that he could get Raphael's little red swimsuit out of it. He wants to take that home as a... Do you see that thing? Rob's picture? He's wearing like a bikini. Yeah.
You gonna hang it from your rear view mirror?
Rob's in pretty good shape. I mean, if anybody I know that can just rock a Speedo, like Brazil style, is Rafael Ruiz.
Isn't he like 96 years old?
Yeah,
he's scary.
I remember thinking, like Rob's in his mid-50s, and he looks, I think he's a vampire.
He looks like, he looks like a teenager.
When I met him 15, longer than that, 13, 15, Jesus, like 15 years ago. What did we, 2000? Yeah, fuck, I'm old.
How come you've aged but he hasn't?
Yeah, I'm fucking aged. Well, I got twins. He's only got one kid, so I've aged twice as fast as him. No, I mean, Rob's a vampire. He doesn't age. He looks good.
But
he's 75 years old.
So, sorry, Tex, besides this Speedo, what else do you want to bring back from?
I'd say it's more general specific knowledge. So I was in college strength and conditioning for 2 years, and I can honestly say I've learned more in a month than I did in those 2 years, based off just coaches' egos, their lack of knowledge, experience, and just general unprofessionalism. And so I have a great base of knowledge kind of with the CrossFit football, what we're teaching and all that. So all of my questions that I've been asking have been kind of diving into the nuts and bolts of that. And it's all just neurological responses to each lift and kind of preparing and writing programs daily, weekly, monthly, and how each piece you put in, it has to have a purpose. You only have so much time and energy and so on and so forth. I mean, we know that, but it's this has to prime that and so on and so forth, and you pattern and build and just kind of put your athletes in the best position for them to succeed at their sport. The primals. So I know John's as big as the squats, the biggest primal, and one thing I've noticed is Raph is in love with the lunge. So that's
he does love him a lunge. He does love him a lunge.
Yeah.
And he loves him a step. Whereas I think, for me, and if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. I mean, for what we did, everything really started in that athletic position. So therefore, the squat was kind of king for me. Whereas Rob is big on, lunging, and we look at obviously as those other two primals is really, as important, but really everything goes back to the squat. Whereas, I think Roth is definitely uses that lunge as really his primary mover. So just, but you take two people, especially having trained with him. I mean, there was, like everybody's going to evolve at their own pace. I mean, Tex, you'll come out of this thing having, not only been in this power athlete stuff, but this CrossFit football, a lot of our own conversations and education, and you'll come out of it with your own set of information, and you're going to see what you like and what you don't like. And I think what's so important about going and training with different people is seeing, what they really focus on. That I'm sure that even in the short time you've been there with Roth, there's things that are very similar and things that are different in terms of philosophy. And, at the end of the day, though, Roth has been a working strength conditioning coach for longer than I care to remember. I mean, he trains groups of people, works with all different types, from the professional that walks through the door who's just wants to look good naked, to kids in selection, and he's able to put them all in the same training program, and he's effectively built a training program that allows them to maximize and express what they want in different ways. And I always go back to our good friend Bill Stoltzing, who passed away a number of years ago, but Bill was in his mid 40s, and Tex asked him about Bill, but Bill was our shark in a lot of ways, and that guys would come in, NFL players would come in and train with us, and Bill was always in our training group. Little did they know that Bill had trained with Raphael for a number of years and was extremely good at everything. Was I think he played college or football at University of Tampa. Was a professional, very successful businessman, and was just a good old boy. So we'd bring in all these NFL players, and all of a sudden Bill's in our training group, and they're looking at this kind of 40-year-old professional guy and thinking, oh, who's this guy? And all of a sudden Bill is just sharking these dudes left and right and just beating them down, talking shit to them. And he was like the ultimate dark horse for us, and Roth used him like that, and Bill loved it, and was a great human being, and the world lost a great man when he passed away. So, but that's just an example. And I tell you, if I lived anywhere close to Tampa, I would train with Raphael daily. I mean, I would love to show up and just unplug and make him lead the ship, just because it gets I think if you program and you write all your own programming and you're really training yourself, I think you got a coach for an idiot, just like a lawyer that gets up and writes all this, or somebody says if you represent yourself in court, you're an idiot. You got to defer to people, and Luke's going through this right now. I mean, when you write your own programming, you tend to just inherently favor what you're good at, and it really takes somebody to take a step back and write an analysis and say, hey, this is where you're lacking. This is what I think I know this, you know this. Let's write something. Let's put something together, and then let's test it, black box it, and see how you're going. And Roth's been incredible at that, and I know he uses different things for different people and has a massive knowledge. I mean, just talking with him about who he's worked with and who his contemporaries are has been pretty exciting over the years.
Yeah, I think a big thing, difference between John and Raf's approach is Raf's all about the limiting factors, just decreasing margin of error and so on and so forth. And then just talking with John, it's big about being who you are and then fixing those limiting factors.
Well, I mean, my idea always became that I always got a little nervous where people, I remember when I first came in the CrossFit deal, people were like, well, just pick everything you're bad at and only do that. And that really kind of like made me a little nervous, because when I was playing football in my training, there were certain things that defined me as an athlete, that there were certain things that were my wheelhouse. There were certain things that if you stripped away from me everything that I had, this is who I would be. And, like for me, it was that ability to punch and slide, move my feet, bend my knees. And you could take certain things from me, but at the end of the day, that was my wheelhouse. And a big part of this training is helping you identify what your wheelhouse is, helping you stay in that wheelhouse and develop things in conjunction to that instead of just walking away. And, Roth's deal is great. I remember, him coming in and testing me and seeing what I was good at, and then putting a lot of other things in the program, but we never abandoned who I was or what I was good at. It was never, and I don't know if his training philosophy is different or if he's using a different approach for you guys, but I know when he trains his professional athletes that if those guys are fast, he's going to make them faster.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to capitalize on that?
Well, yeah, and but what's great with Roth's training and why he's able to do a certain amount of this stuff is because he sees it in real time. You show up every morning, and the one thing I always remember, which is so great about Roth, was showing up some days, and there were certain days that it was like boots to the ass. He was fucking on you, and it was like, fuck, this guy's on you. And other days you come in, and he was able to realize that, you know what, some days we might need to cut the volume, that, you know what, like, wars aren't won on that individual day. It's the volume of work we've done. And I remember, like, that idea of, like, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them, and we use that at the seminar all the time, really came from my own training with Roth, because I obviously played with my job with a bunch of coaches that were boots to the ass every single day. You're not feeling good, fuck you. And, you know, having worked with Roth and even in the collegiate strength conditioning program, every day was fucking axe to the grindstone. And really having to go and work with Roth was really my first experience with a coach who was able to realize that every day is, you know, this guy's going to work hard every day regardless, but certain days, you know, you might not be ready, you might not neurologically, you might have been fried, you might need a little bit more recovery, and his ability to kind of see that in real time and evaluate you fairly quickly was really the magic of the programming, and really where I think I made my best gains. I mean, what's interesting is, as strength coaches, we become so obsessed with coaching effort, and the CrossFit community is so guilty of this. Like, for the most part, and obviously in a commercial gym, this is, or a commercial CrossFit gym, this is going to happen. And, you know, you can ask any of these guys, myself and everybody on this podcast who trains people in a CrossFit gym, there are certain people that are going to come in that are going to die for those seconds, that are going to die for each rep. And there's people that are going to come in that you literally, no matter how much you motherfuck them, aren't going to go to the level that you need them to go to effectively make this program successful. And I think why I got so kind of wrapped around working with kind of our more professional athletes and more with people along that nature is because I wanted to work with people that I did not have to coach effort. I wanted people that were willing to, like, suck the marrow out of life and do the training to the full extreme, that I was actually going to have to pull back a little bit and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do today. You know, I need you to do this better. I need you to do this. I need you to do this, instead of me being a fucking cheerleader. And, you know, working in a commercial, in a CrossFit gym, you're going to get people of all walks, and you're going to get people that are going to literally shear their palms off, and his blood is on the bar, still going to be doing the pull-ups because they need to finish. And you're going to have other people that are going to come in and they're going to be like, back's a little tight, I don't think I should do this today. And it's like, how do you deviate between those people? How do you find it? And there's certain people that are great with working with those people. Me, I'm not one of them. And I think I realized that fairly early, but you know, the thing which was great with Roth is he is really what I call a coach, in that he inspires people to work out. People come in, and you can ask Tex this, when you come in and you train with him. Oh, he's so handsome. He looks so good.
I just pulled up a picture of him in his Speedo online.
Well, Texas Speedo.
I actually have a pair of Brazilian boy shorts that I got in Brazil that look like those, but they're actually yellow.
Brazilian boy shorts.
Brazilian boy shorts. It's what we rocked in Brazil when we were there for Carnival.
Smaller's better.
Yeah. But a guy like Roth, people come in, they train with him, and he becomes this person that you want to impress, that you don't want to let down, that you want to work for his approval. And I really, when people, ask me and they're like, oh, or they say, coach, I always think back to Roth, and really people want to come in and bust their ass. They want to please this guy. They want his approval, and I think that's where this thing really gets separated.
Anything else on your experience over there, Tex?
Yeah, one of the lines he's mentioned many times is the goal is to get the athlete to see. So each one of these times it was stretching. Put them in a position for them to realize how important stretching is, how important the attention to detail in the movement. He pulled me aside one day. I was counting reps and keeping time for just a group of guys. He said, stop. They need to learn to do that themselves and be just aware of where they are. So he literally told me to stop coaching so those guys could focus and just get their mind right. So there's lots of little kind of professional lessons that he's going through daily with different groups. And it's just a great experience so far. So 2 more months, see what happens.
Yeah, I think you'll come out the best. And then what's our next adventure? We're going to go out to Westside and go hang out with Louie and we'll go out there and have some fun. I also want to go out and see John Meadows and those guys, so I think it'd be great. I think coming from a background that Tex is coming from as a strength and conditioning coach and having gone and worked at UT and now seeing Roth, I think I think you're going to have a great resume, and selfishly, I think it's awesome for me as you get to go out and teach that seminar. And what's nice too is I got to work with Tex and Carl Case this weekend, and really seeing the evolution and knowing what you can and can't do, and really staying in that wheelhouse and saying, hey, this is who I am as a coach, and really building that ethos, because it becomes so important when you stand up in front of 40 people. How quickly do you connect to that person? Why are you standing up here? Why should I be listening to you? And more importantly, what are you going to teach me? And I think we do a great job at that at the seminar. When you stand up, hopefully within the initial talk, everybody's bought in. And I always ask, I look around, I'm like, everybody ready? Anybody ready to leave? Everybody's bought in. Let's go. Let's get some work done. We got another, 15, 16 hours to go out and hammer this thing home. So, all this does is go back and adds to his, creating his ethos and really who he is as a coach and who you've defined. I mean, that's really how this thing goes back. I mean, you start looking at football players, where'd you play? Who have you gone against? Who have you worked with? What do you do? What successes have you had? I think it's same goes in the coaching field. And the problem is that now in today's market, all you need is a website, a cool name, and some pictures on the internet, and then everybody's instantly a coach. I mean, I think for me, going back when I was looking for somebody to train with when I first moved down to Tampa, and I remember finding Roth, that's what a coach was. And now it's such just a random, or more importantly, just generally used thing that anybody.
Starting a website.
Yeah, just start a website, and now I'm an expert. I mean, I saw somebody post on Facebook that, 5 years ago, there were people that were experts, and now there's, instantly, here we are now, we're at the 7,000 to 10,000 CrossFit affiliates, and that there's 7,000 to 10,000 people leading gyms that are experts in this information, and it takes a lifetime to learn this stuff. I still don't count myself as an expert, and I still count myself as somebody who's constantly in a state of learning. And I think where you get in trouble is when you lose the learning bug, and that you stop going out there, you stop venturing. And I remember Tex said to me, he goes, man, one of the things that was so different about you is that you had the opportunity to use your training at a high level and then have free time to go out and train with who you want to train with, and not just the internet, not just this, and this, but actually physically go there and learn what you need to learn. And I was like, well, shit, man, it's my life depended on it. My survival depended on it. And if there was somebody that did something better and I needed it, I would go there and I would train with them. And I would learn what I needed to learn. I would take what I needed back and I would use it, and I would make a decision on whether or not it helped me, and didn't. And I really credit a lot of that with Roth, and still think to this day he's probably one of the best people I've ever worked with.
The Ruiz.
Roth,
Man.
one of these days we'll convince him to move to Newport Beach.
Do you think he'll
Master
come here?
Splinter, right?
Master Splinter.
People refer to him as Master Splinter still.
Oh man, he's an intimidating individual. He is a coach in every sense of the word.
Sure.
He can overhead squat like 3 times his body weight, right?
Yeah, I remember one day we were training, and he front squatted 315 at a body weight of about 165 for a triple on a set of Nike Shocks.
Yeah, in front. No, they were the zigzags. Ben was just
Major
talking about it.
Wavos.
The Reebok zigzags.
No. This is back in the day, and we were down in Australia, and we showed up and we went over to Daz's gym and we started training. And so Roth strips down to his underwear and he's just training in, like I said, small little boy shorts, and he puts like 330 in the bar, 150 kilos, and he was doing kind of pause squats. But as he was coming out of the bottom, he was generating enough speed and force to actually come out of the squat and land in a lunge position.
Stop it.
So the guy was doing pause squats with double body weight, and as he was coming up, he was generating enough hip extension to actually split his feet to catch in a lunge.
What an asshole.
At which point he would put his feet back to square, he would go back down, as he would cut up, he would split lunge into the other and set it up.
I've
and
never even seen that done.
These Australian guys are like watching this dude basically move double body weight like he's, they're
1RM.
Yeah, like most people, like we count people that have a double body weight back squat as fairly strong, and this dude is dynamic enough to basically be able to go from a, bilateral to a unilateral, lunging position dynamically with, driving the weight off his back and catch, no belt, no shoes on, in a set of shorts, and needless to say, those dudes were like, "Fuck, this guy's real strong." I'm like, "Oh, you think?"
Dance a school.
Hey, Tex, you'll have to get in his ear and see if we can schedule something, get him on the podcast.
Yeah,
For
I can do
sure,
that.
dude. That would be cool.
I know he's a
you
busy
guys
man.
Luke, do we have any comments from our live audience?
Yeah, we got one question about Balboa programming. Then I guess we can answer that relatively pretty quick here, and then we'll talk a little bit about our Balboa Jack team series or team event that we just did. Right?
Let's do it, and then we got the submission,
Long day.
the podcast submission,
All right, so
which goes with our conversation because it's unilateral and bilateral training.
all right, sounds good. So Nick K asks, not Nick Cage, star of Con Air, but Nick K. I'm coaching a military affiliate now, and I'm curious what the template behind CrossFit Balboa is. Is it just CrossFit football with more GPP? I feel like this would be the best programming for the general public, but would like more info. So in the past 2 months or so, Callie and I have been more on the power athlete side of things, and Ben has taken over Balboa programming. But prior to that, I mean, if you go back and look at some of the historical workouts, we really cycle it a couple different ways. What you see on, I mean, which I hope is the standard for most affiliates, but what you see on the website isn't necessarily what everyone always does, because there's certain people who may just come out of their foundations and need to just linear progress and do fives. They're not ready for a 3RM or a 1RM with drop sets. But for the most part, I guess you could say it's CrossFit football template, because we wanted basically we're squatting 30 reps a week for the most part.
Well, it's based on CrossFit football power athlete parameters.
Yeah, the parameters loosely, in the sense that these are the parameters. You know, you're going to squat probably 30 reps a week. You're going to press at least 15, and that's going to be vertical horizontal press, and you're going to do some dynamic pulling and deadlifting. So,
But it's but the Wednesday is always a little different.
yeah, and that's kind of the generic template, and the application and implementation now is the season is CrossFit Open, and we're an affiliate, and people want to do it, and we've gotten a little more interested in team competitions, so we're starting to I guess attack a higher time domain and just hit some more skill works or more skill work that's associated with that, because when you're talking about having a general population that just needs to be relatively fit and really just wants to look good, and at the same time you're trying to provide an experience and a good time, programming is important, and what you need to accomplish, and what we really focused on, is allowing people to show up every day, 7 days a week and train, while selfishly imposing the demands and getting them the adaptation that we want out of our athletes, which is, to be bigger, stronger movers. It was always cool when our people would go drop in at other gyms, and one of our guys was in NorCal and dropped in, and they were doing like a 3RM rack jerk for their portion phase A of the WOD. And he was hitting like 150 kilos on his 3RM rack jerk. Nate dropped in, and nobody there could rack jerk 100 kilos. So it's cool to send our people out and have them just smash workouts because the weights are so light. And that's one of the adaptations that we get. Now, in terms of would Balboa be the most optimal programming for military affiliate? I'm not sure.
I mean, honestly, it's like John said, we fall within that power athlete parameter, but like Luke said, we are cycling this program to cater to this season.
Yeah.
So if you look at it as
competitions we have in-house.
Exactly. So if you look at a snapshot of the Balboa programming, you'll see it deviate from a more CrossFit football-esque style programming when we're building up strength, maybe 10 to 8 weeks out, and then 4 weeks out, you can see it get a little bit more skill, longer Metcon, and that's the way we cycle it. And I think that hopefully we're not alone in a lot of boxes in that way. But we are still trying to squat twice a week. We're staying again like in those parameters within the power athlete parameters. But this guy, I think if we had to say yes, it is CrossFit football-esque, yes. But if his athletes are not training for the Open, then there's a lot of things that they don't need to follow that Balboa is doing, for instance.
And in terms of application, I mean, you see the programming, but when we're on the floor and we're coaching, and people are...
Oh man, we are extremely hands-on.
Yeah, I mean, we're changing foot position, we're changing grip width, we're changing the way we get in your face. Like we don't have one client at our gym that doesn't know to just stop when they're being coached.
Yeah, we don't just, it's time to squat, and we don't just set you free. I mean, we're essentially in your space, especially people who are new, and I have no qualms about if an athlete is stronger or if they're weaker, of changing the guidelines and getting them essentially to get the adaptation we're trying to elicit.
Yeah, which athlete's going to have to go slower because they're going to be doing negatives on their pull-ups, whereas another athlete's going to be sprinting through a workout. So I mean, there's two different stimuli.
Yeah.
To a workout that may be running and vertical pulling and push-ups, because one athlete just has a weaker upper body, it's going to be slow. So whereas another athlete, like we just did Helen, we did and it was just a different stimulus for 3 different people in the 7:30 p.m. class. But we make those adjustments for our athletes on the fly.
If I had to give a black and white answer, I'd say yes. The Balboa is fine for GPP. It's great.
Yeah, and it's well thought out. The volume is monitored, and the objective is to allow people to train every day.
Yeah.
And benefit from a strength gain and a metabolic gain at the same time. So, hammer that one to death.
Did I just make a Crocodile Dundee reference? Yes, I did.
Did I miss it? That's not a knife. This is a knife.
This is Joe Heaton. No, I said that's not a squat. That's a squat.
Wow. There you go.
What else?
So we got if you guys couldn't tell, we actually finally got our Christmas present to Power Athlete. We actually got a coffee maker, and I've had several of them today, so I don't know about these guys, but the secret to Power Athlete is staying heavily caffeinated.
Yeah, John's got 2 keyboards, and he's been typing the whole time while he's been on this radio show on each keyboard.
I just have one of those helmets that holds 2 beers, and I really just put 2 cups of Salt there. And I put the tubes in my mouth.
Coffee and a kill clip.
Coffee
and
a kill clip.
Stay close to your ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, who's that guy again?
Baker.
No.
Her ex-boyfriend, Baker Levin.
Yeah. I thought they were still dating.
It's on again, on again.
The deepest.
What else, Denny?
Balboa jacked team results. How'd you guys do?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I feel like my biceps are bigger than they've ever been.
I think I tore both of my biceps. Seriously, my shoulders are so sore. It's the worst thing in the world. But we smashed it.
Yeah, but also you're sort of a pussy when it comes to
anything. Yeah, well, any discomfort really.
I know. Yeah, it went well. We I think the final results were we were 20th out of 70, which I don't hate because again, we crushed the first workout. In terms of strength, we just dominated everybody.
What was that, like a back squat snatch?
1 RM back squat, 2 RM power snatch, 3 RM power clean. And we're like, is this real? Is this...
Finally.
I know.
Finally, they gamed it for us.
I know. When I saw the workouts, I was stoked. So we did pretty well, and I think ultimately, like as just sort of like a general theme, we did exactly what we were hoping to do. We executed like flawlessly. Everyone did the job that they were supposed to do. So
just like a little bit more,
a little bit more. So that's good. That's good.
But I don't know. I'm upset with my personal performance, even though it was.
No, I'm also upset with your performance.
Is pegged like on that first workout. I went in wanting to squat. What was the 440?
Was your final?
Yeah, and that's what we were thinking. Like that'd be pretty good.
You went for 415, then you went to 440.
Yeah, and then that went too easy, and I'm like, man, I should have not done 440. I should have done 475.
Well, of course you can say that after the fact, but
yeah, but we got the points, and it worked out.
It's fine.
And then 315, I missed that clean.
You missed his snatches, which is I had to get in your face.
You each had to establish a number of those lifts.
So everybody had 5 minutes to get a 1 RM squat.
Then 5 minutes to get a 2 RM power snatch. I know.
What the fuck is that, man?
It's
It wasn't,
awesome.
but to be honest with you, it was if you were adequately warmed up, which I don't know if other people were because the warm-up area is crowded. But
We brought our own weights
we
and
brought
racks.
our own racks and weights to make
Guess
sure.
whose fucking brainchild that was?
That was so my idea.
That was my
We
idea.
need to do that.
That was my idea.
Yeah, especially after Occupy. Remember, even at our Occupy events, we had so much fucking weight, and we
Right.
still ran out of weight. So I'm like, well, they're gonna run out of weight. No one knows how much weight to get because you need 10 tons to be adequately outfitted for this. You know what I
At
mean?
just our station.
So I started warming up like an hour and a half before because that's how long it takes me to squat on RM.
And I was like, look at this diva.
Unless you're on the
fucking-
Bulgarian program, and then it's 6 minutes.
that was different. That was
Yeah.
like
Singles,
That was
you
like,
just start with
we were
singles.
so warm from yesterday that we just basically just warmed up. I
never.
think it was
cooled
like
down.
what 225, 405, 600.
But
yeah, but it went well. It was good. Yeah. What can we say? We just
yeah.
stomped everybody in terms of strength.
And I think, selfishly, in terms of quality of movement, like one of our girls was getting no rep on a floater wad because she wasn't reaching her chin.
Yeah, because she wasn't lifting her chin. I mean, her chin was clearly above the bar, but she was like doing chest to bar essentially. But she wasn't lifting her head. So the judge is like, I've never even seen anything like this before. I don't know how to count it. So.
I'm so glad I don't that you guys didn't invite me. When I was
Oh,
working.
you
Well,
would
you're
have lost
invited.
your mind.
Oh, man.
But it was
And
fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
At least in our heat, if you want to talk about small victories, we smashed everyone in our heat on everything.
What about the name placement? Who took home the trophy greatest name?
No one.
We
No
did.
We have to go collect it because we had to leave early. There was an after party we had to tend to.
Understandable.
But no, we took home first place. Thanks to everyone who helped out with that.
Yes, thanks.
Balboa Jack, Power Athlete Nation just coming through. But it was fun. It was a good
All
time.
right. All right. Well, that leaves us with it's a pretty lengthy submission. We can get into it now. We can save it for the next show.
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Oh,
Let's knock it out. What is it? Read it.
it's long. It's a two-parter.
All right.
The first one is
harder.
Hold on.
It's going to require some reading.
Here, I'll read it. I attended the CrossFit Football certification in August of 13. Avid listener of the podcast. I was already using aspects of the CrossFit Football before the seminar, and the experience cemented the superiority of the Power Athlete method. Everything just made sense. After reevaluating my own priorities in 14, I have jumped on the collegiate template and have noticed significant changes. My question, however, related to implementing Power Athlete template. I train a cadre of odd athletes, including regional level CrossFitters and professional ultimate Frisbee players. Yes, this is not a joke. And while the last couple of podcasts have some interesting insights on training the competitive exerciser, I have a couple of questions relating to field performance. First, is there an optimal ratio of bilateral to unilateral training, especially when related to the lower body? While I have read a variety of theories, I'm interested in the viewpoint of the podcast Q. Mike Boyle's influence resonates through strength and conditioning in relation to the ultimate and predominant focuses on unilateral movements. As a result, I am increasingly seen as a black sheep for championing bilateral movements. Despite publicly arguing for bilateral training, I obviously include unilateral work in my own programming, mostly Power Athlete step-ups, walking lunges, and straight leg, single RDLs, basically. I currently employ a 4 bilateral, 1 unilateral ratio in the intermediate off-season and taper towards 1.5 to 1 ratio during the season as a way of moderately total tonnage volume. I also find myself employing unilateral exercise and warm-ups as corrective tools while working with a untrained individual. I haven't found this program effective, however, I have a tendency to second-guess myself, and I'm curious as to the general approach of Power Athlete when discussing bilateral versus unilateral loading. I'm also wondering if there are any worthwhile articles discussing the topic. Here's my take on unilateral versus bilateral movements. In terms of driving adaptation for muscle and strength, which one do you think would be most beneficial? It's usually a bilateral movement because you can handle more weight. I remember training an athlete's performance. Vaso Kronos, who was one of the strength coaches, had a very nice 100-kilo single leg squat, but yet could not squat 400 pounds. So I remember seeing him single leg squat 225, but not being able to squat 400 was kind of odd to me. And I remember being like, great, I'm really stoked you can single leg squat 225, but you don't have a 400-pound back squat. Now, you would expect that if somebody had a unilateral single leg squat at 225, they should be able to squat what? Say 450.
At least.
But at least, you would think. But it didn't translate. So what we found is that obviously working through our 3 basic primal movements of the step, the lunge, and the squat, that while an athlete is going to be on one leg, a lot of times the single most effective way to build strength, because we know that we can linearly progress and actually drive adaptation through the squat, that I think that they all work they all work within a relation to each other. So just focusing on unilateral movements, I know that for Raphael and how we kind of group this stuff is that once an athlete could demonstrate bilateral movement, you start adding unilateral movements in as another way to challenge posture and position. That if you can maintain posture in this, then obviously you should be able to translate it. But we never go away from our bread and butter, which is obviously our biggest strength builder. So the unilateral movements are never going to be as big of movers for strength gaining as a bilateral type movement. I mean, obviously think about the idea of, single arm dumbbell bench versus being able to do a barbell type movement. Now, obviously both movements are utilized for strength training, but why would you favor one over the other? You wouldn't necessarily do it. You use them in tandem. The idea being like, okay, do we want to do single leg hops or single leg box jumps? Okay, both control take a lot of time, a lot of posture, position, a lot of balance. But in terms of generating max force, a 2-legged jump is always going to be obviously more beneficial. So I think there becomes this kind of idea, and he has it right in terms of blending a ratio, but I don't think you can actually put a specific ratio, just kind of basically white plane it and say, hey, everybody should be doing this. I think it really depends on the individual and really putting him through. And if he came to the seminar, he went through all of our assessment tools. And if you notice, almost all of our assessment tools are some form of unilateral movements. That's how we really challenge it from our initial dead bug. And a lot of the different movements we start talking about, we really talk splitting the body up, and that helps us assess things. But in terms of creating a stronger organism, I think that there's some benefits for there can be an argument both ways. The reason that people like Mike Boyle and other strength coaches really favor the unilateral movements is because obviously it is dramatically less loading on the body. That obviously you're never going to be able to single leg squat, single leg lunge, what you can when you put a heavy bar on your back. And those guys are so focused with this idea that you're going to hurt yourself and that, everything has to be this. We'd rather see a guy do lighter reps for 8 to 12 reps than have her handle a heavy 1RM. I know Athletes Performance was wrapped around the axle about not asking athletes to hurt themselves, that they would bring somebody in and they were really didn't want to injure guys, and that was really their biggest deal. And I really believe that, we always say at seminar, do no harm, and that, you don't want to hurt people, but I don't believe in hindering progress. I'm not going to hinder your progress because I don't have the ability to coach you to do a movement. I know all the prehab, rehab, and all the stuff that I need to do to effectively get you to lift a heavy weight. And the problem becomes where if I don't have you training with heavy weights, then it is dangerous for me to ask an athlete to go out there and lift heavy weights. So what we do with the program, especially across the football power athlete, is we load it intelligently, that we're constantly giving our athletes opportunities to lift heavy weights, working up to rep maxes, being able to kind of push the outer blends. And if you've done the program, you're no stranger to putting a heavy bar on your back and doing these things. We do program in unilateral movements, but I don't necessarily keep them in terms of like a specific ratio. It's really dependent on each athlete. The only real ratio we adhere to is for push and pulls, that we have about 3 pulls for every push on the site. And that's obviously not daily or even weekly, but in terms of when I look at the program as a whole, it kind of breaks up into that. So we always really talk about people that all the go fast muscles are in the back and all the show are in the front. So I think that your tipping your hat and using unilateral movements is incredible. I think that's a great way to go. I think it's also, I really like that you start talking about using this corrective exercises and in the warm-ups, especially for your untrained individuals. I think what they do is people start freaking out a little bit when you start getting them on one leg and you start getting people to lunge and step. But we also talked about earlier in this deal that the ability to have somebody demonstrate athleticism talks about the ability to seamlessly transition between that X, Y, and Z axis and those lower body primal movements. So definitely putting people in a position to do them, and then using, unilateral wedge, dumbbell, kettlebell, or different movements to necessarily challenge these movements becomes paramount. So
Find the holes.
yeah, at the end of the day, are you finding holes? So it sounds like you're on the, Thomas is on the right track. So let me power through the second one, we'll get done. In a previous episode, there was a discussion of training throwing athletes, especially baseball players. I was wondering if you could expand upon this topic, as I am interested in relation to throwing a disc. Here is the video of a movement I believe to be most taxing. I have noticed that many ultimate frisbee players have a significant drop shoulder, and while I have found a lot of information through Eric Cressy, I was wondering what corrective strategies are employed by the athlete Jedi Masters. Keep up the great work. Since I haven't watched the video,
I'll pull it up here, John.
Okay, no problem.
Just going back to the unilateral movements, that you had that
I know this guy.
overhead dumbbell single arm squat, and I think they were in Tuesday's programming, 5 reps of the snatch and then 5 reps overhead squat. And I tell you what, man, I kind of felt violated, like Luke sitting next to the Hindu booger wiper. It was hard for me to keep my feet flat. Well, as I was descending into that squat, I was able to figure it out on my right arm, get into a good low squat, toes forward, and keep my feet flat at the bottom position. But as soon as I got over to the left arm, I had a tendency to kind of come up on my toes.
Yeah, I would have just, not seeing it, but I would just have you widen your stance. What we found is that a lot of times doing that position, when people go from the power snatch, obviously they're in a pulling position, that I know for that movement that I tend to go a little bit wider with my squat, and it really helps to kind of sit back in. But what that was really stressing is obviously that pull, and then being able to really focus on that kind of unilateral shoulder. And if you take your right hand and kind of put it out in front of you, you can kind of balance, and also you'll get a little bit of rotation. So the other thing too is, if you filmed it, it would be interesting to see if that you were getting a lot of torso rotation. It's kind of what we'd expect. I'd love for everybody to be able to sit in this like amazing like overhand one-handed overhead squat position, with a 50-pound dumbbell. Like we have that great picture of Bobby Longfellow, I think, overhead squatting that keg, and his fucking squat looks amazing with his hands over his head.
Bobby Goodfellow.
Was that Bobby Goodfellow?
Some people call him
Longfellow, Goodfellow, it's all the same. But that same position becomes so important, and you start talking about, and the other thing too is people really get kind of idea like, okay, well, is it a bilateral or unilateral? Well, you can combine the two. There's an idea of doing a, unilateral or bilateral lower body with a unilateral upper body, and you can start mixing and matching, and that's really where we start talking about separating the upper body from the lower body. So, we do a lot of unilateral lunging with a bar on our back, obviously, bar overhead, dumbbell two-hand. So, there's different ways to skin this thing. With I think with programming, as long as you can establish why you're doing something, and more importantly establish a need, and then you can kind of assess that your athlete's strong, stable, and healthy, and that they're doing the movement well, then I think there's a need for it. The problem is we start randomly throwing things out there without progression, that all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to start working on let's get somebody to do a one hand or a single arm overhead squat with a dumbbell, but I have not effectively taught them to squat. I have not taught them to overhead squat. I haven't even taught them how to do an overhead squatting, or overhead lunging, single arm overhead lunge. So at least then they're actually familiar with the movement. Then I think you get into problems. So really looking at like, hey, this is what I want to do down the road, and then having progression and becomes paramount. Watching the guys throw the frisbee. When you say have a significant drop shoulder, I think what you're talking about is elevated and rotated, that they're kind of an internally rotated shoulder to be in that position. And we obviously know that the shoulder on the front of the scapula is a much more dangerous position than actually dynamically throwing across the body. So we'd always talk about drop and retract that shoulder blade. How do we teach that? Our best way is obviously our vertical pull manual resistance model, and then also teaching a heavy back squat, where we teach that as kind of shoulders dropped and retract and driving that bar off the back. So big thing we really stress at the CrossFit Football Seminar is talking about posture and position, and then all the movements that we do to challenge posture and position. And, I always ask people, well, why do you lift weights? And, people always say, oh, to be strong, be powerful, and they give me all these kind of, broad stroke answers. And at the end of the day, why are we lifting weights? We're usually using external resistance to challenge posture and position. It just so happens that the external resistance that we're choosing is barbells. So can you maintain posture and position through full ranges of motion using external force? And I think how you fix a lot of this stuff and you work on that is teaching proper position and posture through the training and through the movement, so that by the time your athlete translates and moves onto the field, where all of a sudden their direct response and the water finds its level, they'll go back to what they know, because we obviously know that nobody ever rises to the occasion. People just fall to the level of their training. So obviously what you're going to have to do is just focus that in the training and really work on that drop and retracted shoulder position.
So I think we hammered that. And I mean, Denny, Tex, anything to add on that end?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of John, the step one should always teach the right kinetic alignment, and then the unilateral is a way to assess with immediate feedback. So like Denny, as an example, your right arm was good, and then as soon as you pulled it over to your left, something was wrong. So it's just you got to look at that left arm now. So just a unilateral movement's good way for immediate feedback for a coach.
Good stuff. Do we answer his questions?
I think we beat it to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, what else? Denny, what do we got?
Well, that's it for what we got on the dock. Hit everything. We got any more questions sent to us from the live audience?
Yeah, a couple came in. Steve Benarski asked about remember last week we were talking about
The basket toss
the
for rope
basket
climb?
toss and the rope climb, and we didn't do it. We chickened out.
We chickened out. Oh, it would have been so good.
So good.
It's not totally off the radar though. I mean, it just needed some like we just need to tweak it a little bit, get it perfect.
Well, one of our other
Someone died when we were practicing. last week.
we had to fill in a team member quickly because someone
broke
didn't make it
themselves.
But what else? No, I think it was one of our coaches jacked their wrist up a while back, and he just wasn't comfortable basket tossing. I think we would have done it if he was 100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
Faux show.
We just got to take him out back and just end it.
Yeah. Good.
He's a broken animal.
Old Yeller style.
Old Yeller, just look at the horizon.
And then AJ Belch asked about we had our fashion versus function post, and we talked a little bit about shoes, and people were talking about oldie shoes and flats and what are the best shoes. And
some heated debate going on there recently. I love it.
Yeah. But I mentioned, what I use personally, and most of our coaches here, we wear just old canvas Vans, or like not old, except for me, if I find them on the street, I'm wearing them. But the old school.
That explains
version of
your Crocs
As
recently.
Jesse Burdick told us, our team shoe is Keds, so we wear a lot of Keds.
But what's nice about them is they're flat. They have a pretty tight seam between the sole and the canvas, toe pocket. Is that what you call it? Toe pick.
I don't know. They come in my size.
And so, if you're doing any sort of lateral stuff, it works great. So far, these haven't ripped. They're pretty close, Kelly. We think they got that crack in the rubber, but I mean,
if I can't see your pinky toe coming out the side, they're still good.
But I think we're probably gonna be posting on a shoes article, aren't we, Tex? Isn't that in the pipeline?
Yeah, I got a rough draft. Yeah, I got a rough draft built up. I'll send it over.
Is it actually built up, or are you just giving us it's done, but it's in your head done?
Well, no, my whole premise was fashion and function for shoes, but then Callie did a better job than me. So now I got to rethink my approach.
That will happen.
Well, you don't admit that shit on the radio, dude.
Listen, I know fashion.
That's what I think every day when I see you.
Shut up. Listen, there's the going out flannel, there's the casual flannel, there's the training flannel.
God, I got this great picture of Callie out at the bar the other night.
Show
The look on her face.
We gotta go. We
The
gotta
look
go.
on her face.
No.
I've never seen a girl more disinterested in who she was talking to.
I gotta go.
Like,
We
Callie was
gotta go.
actually, one eye was completely closed, and the other look was like, I was like, is she sleeping at the bar while talking to this
That's
kid?
not to mention that Callie had 6 shots of Malort's. If anyone knows what Malort's is.
So, yeah, she was
Did you lose
just
a
about to
bet?
get her. She was just about to get her mean on.
It was sleepy time medicine. That's mama's medicine.
So has Tex? We went over to one of our members' house for the after party, and I brought over a bottle of Malort's and was pouring after dinner shots. And people
You
were
can't
just
give
like,
that stuff away.
What is
Uh,
Malort's?
So people
You're-
ask
don't
me
worry.
like, what is it? What is it like? And I was like, honestly, I can say this: I've never tasted anything quite like it in my life.
It's a Chicago favorite.
It's a Chicago thing, and it says on the back, it literally uses the words, "This has a terrible taste."
And it caters
No,
to
it caters to two-fisters.
Yeah.
two-fisted drinkers.
Two-fisted drinkers.
It's a shot from there's a bar I used to go to. I don't know if I've told you about this place. In
No, what's it
Naperville.
called?
The
Oh,
Lantern.
is it?
Oh, any
Tell
good?
us more.
Yeah, I've never heard about it.
Well, I'll tell you guys later.
Okay.
But
Well, maybe we should button this thing up.
before it gets a little too far.
Before
off
it
the
starts going down the path we all want it to.
I have to do the open workout in like an hour.
That's
Can't
why you've been
help
over
it's
here
Malort's
fidgeting the
fault.
whole time?
That's because you brought a coffee machine here.
That's how we're going to get shit done.
But
Hey, so the open workout's going to be announced today. Are we going to put up that spreadsheet
yeah,
like last time?
yeah, we'll get a link. We'll get a link up to it.
Cool.
Shoot a goose.
We'll get it on. Put that link. We'll put that link in. Where are we gonna put that link?
This
You going to put it on CrossFit
Power
Football
Athlete.
or put it on Power Athlete?
a link to Power Athlete to the link.
Yeah, we're gonna link from CrossFit Football to Callie's Facebook page.
Right.
It will be broadcast. Let me just commit to that. I got to think about the best place. It'll be most likely on CrossFit Football, but I want to have a link on both Power Athlete and CrossFit Football. Sound good?
All
All
right.
right. Good luck to everyone on the open workout, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
What else? Do we have any shameless plugs, John?
Shameless plugs.
The Badges
You
for
for
Life
George-
Oh
competition.
yeah, Badges for Life. Obviously our sponsor and best friend, Well Food Co.
Don't sound so
I
enthusiastic.
know, Jesus.
I mean, it's amazing
So-
stuff. I'm just like completely blown away the fact that.
It's already right on the horizon.
What's that?
The badges.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Right
right around the
Badges for Life. We got to get that thing pubbed.
Yeah,
We gotta get some
we're
sponsors.
in. Callie and Tex are laying it down at Professor Booty's gym this weekend, CrossFit Football seminar.
That's right.
They've been practicing their movie quotes.
He wants to do a workout too, remember?
Huh?
He wants to do,
Yeah,
that one time he was
listen.
saying he wanted to do the open workout, but
That lunch hour falls right around my nap time, so all I ask is that when they do the open, that they don't drop the bar so I can take a nap.
I think he
Uh,
kind of wants you to do it too.
Again, if only if I really, really suck on the first time around.
Odds are Callie will do it again.
I'll
on
do it
Saturday.
again. You know
Like,
what? I get jazzed. I
Yeah.
get a little jazzed.
There's no way. There's no way you're not. Especially if it's something that is body weight and you're going to get 10 more reps. All you got to do is do it twice. No
No.
problem.
Just
We're taking any bets on what we think it is?
no.
Max burpees,
I
7
bet
minutes.
you'll be like the burpee deal.
Yeah,
Maybe like a burpee
burpees,
box
box
jump.
jumps.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't at all.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Callie just wants to suffer. She
I hope.
wants to hurt
I hope
herself.
it's a. I
She
hope
wants to
it's,
cut herself.
I hope it's a 5K, like a leisurely 5K.
In place. On camera.
Yeah.
In place on camera.
How about
10 minutes of high knees?
How about every box jump is equal to 1 step, and then you have to measure your steps, and then however many steps go into a 5K. That's how many box jumps you have to do.
What? It's a complicated.
Sounds pretty easy to coach, measure,
Yeah.
judge.
Yeah, so every step is 3 feet, every box jump, so then 3 feet divided by a 5K. So you got to do 3.2 miles.
Cut
worth of
that in
box
half,
jumps.
double it. That's your score.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I guess if you're in the HB area, you want to get involved, you check out Badges for Life.
Selling out already.
Yeah,
we have
we got it.
teams.
Yeah, we got
Teams
some
already
teams signed up.
registered.
It's going to be legit. And then team series. Do you want to
Yeah.
just tease with the dates?
Okay, I will tease with the dates. So we have finalized the dates for the team series. The first, the regional, I guess you could say the battle before the actual war is going to be September, the weekend of the 13th and 14th. And then the finals will be held October 11th and 12th. So put that on your calendar now, coming to a city near you if your city is worthy. And we're going to put a list of the cities out and just start getting your team assembled. No different, 2 men, 2 women. I guess a little different than last year because we had the 1 woman, but 2 men, 2 women, and we'll forge forward with Pats.
That's all we got for now. What do we got next week, Denny?
Next week, well, we'll recap the Open.
Okay.
Definitely that. We got some power athlete submissions to get into. There's just a lot of them out there. Really haven't finalized anything. So
awesome. And I guess one thing that
feedback from the nation, you know.
And then one thing to really, I guess we could kind of plug right now is once membership goes live, there's 3 levels of membership. We are going to be doing exclusive roundtables with John and other coaches in John's network and Power Athlete HQ staff. And we've been batting around the idea that, you know, we're going to be going live here in March, probably the 2nd or 3rd weekend in March, depending on our schedule, which I'm looking at now. 2nd or 3rd weekend, we're going to be doing a roundtable discussion on either nutrition or programming. So that's going to be legit. More details to follow after that, but that's going to be available exclusively to the professional members on Power Athlete HQ. So check that out too. There'll be more details surfacing over the next 10 days.
Next week's seminar, get signed up if you're around the Phoenix area in Arizona.
Yeah, do it. We're going to be in AZ. Let's do it.
Luke Summers.
But all right.
Carrie Hindelman. I'll be there.
Let's wrap it up. Let's call it a wrap. Is that what they say?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap,
Adios.
folks.
It's been fun.
All right,
Awesome.
see you guys.
Great show.
Take care.
All right, take care.